Welcome back, Nerd Squad. We have had lots of superheroes who have been introduced over the years, meant to shake things up in an otherwise established comic book world among the old reliable supers who have become some of the steadfast pillars. But sometimes it's not just enough for publishers to introduce new heroes. Sometimes they feel like even these well-established heroes who've been around for what feels like forever and never seem to age are in the need of their own makeover to help them stay relevant, or just shock us into buying that latest issue so we can find out what the heck is going on with them. Today we're going to look at some of these heroes as we count down the top 10 superhero transformations you won't believe, both internal transformations and external ones. Some of these characters have changed drastically over the years, and while they usually bounce back to their old original appearance slowly over time, some have even incorporated drastic changes that you may not have even noticed because they were so gradually introduced, or they were introduced a while ago. If you have strong opinions on whether or not you are for or against superhero transformations, let us know in the comments below. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10. Batman. Batman has undergone a lot of changes over the years. Remember when he had a rainbow wardrobe? But even if we're not talking about how he went from black to color back to full on black in his outfit in the comics, one doesn't have to look far to see how magically he seems to have transformed. Let's even just look at Batman on the screen. Batman used to have his own series in the 1960s where Adam West was famous for his role as the Caped Crusader. But while this might be your Batman, today if you put Adam West's bats next to Ben Affleck's Batman, you might notice some drastic changes. And who knows what it'll be like when we put him next to Robert Pattinson. His suit has gone from spandex tights to full-on armor, and he has become dazed. Not going to lie, I kinda miss the days when a dad bod was considered fit enough to be a superhero. Bring the dad bods back. Number 9. Daredevil. Have you always thought of Daredevil as a skilled and trained martial artist who could even be considered a ninja? Yes? Well, you're wrong. In fact, Daredevil was originally introduced as a hero who received superpowers from the same radioactive material that blinded him. So while we now think of him as just a normal dude who has enhanced senses and is a trained fighter, originally his superpowers extended beyond his senses. It seemed his run-in with the radioactive materials had granted him enhanced agility and strength as well, though he was already in pretty great shape previously from his boxing training. That's right, he got all that fitness from boxing training, not from becoming a ninja. It wasn't until writer Frank Miller introduced the idea of him being trained by stick at a young age to become the skilled fighter he is today that this was even a thing, his martial arts stuff. And by the way, that didn't happen until over 20 years after Daredevil's introduction. This changed very much the way the character was written and perceived by readers. It made him more human, more relatable, and it made it easier really to turn his world upside down, which Matt Murdock has had happen to him many times over in the comics, especially during Frank Miller's run, but not exclusively. Everyone likes to turn his world upside down. Number 8. Jubilee. Jubilee was first introduced in Uncanny X-Men issue 244, and would later become popularized through the 1990s X-Men animated series. That's where I remember first falling in love with her. She had explosive powers that were often illustrated as her having the ability to short-circuit tech and create fireworks. Later we would go on to find that Jubilee was so much more powerful than we originally thought, as her explosions work on an atomic level. In fact, even on a subatomic level you could say. Meaning that she could create explosions with a similar devastating effect to a nuclear bomb. But while she and her power set would grow during her time with the X-Men, she would also undergo another transformation that would change her drastically. She became a vampire. While she was later cured of her vampirism, this was an interesting time in Jubilee's life that many would have opinions on. Most people either completely love it or completely hate it. We'd also see Jubilee take on more responsibility and become an adult and mom. A big change from when we met her in the animated series as a young teen mall rat who lived in the mall. She was a mall rat, she just hung out at the mall all the time, and she also lived there, so literally. Number 7. Wonder Woman. Remember that time Wonder Woman was depowered and made a martial artist trained spy? No? Well, it happened. You may remember the days when Wonder Woman was no more than Justice Society of America's honorary member and secretary. But do you remember her weird mod-inspired spy adventures? This happened during Danny O'Neill's run in the late 1960s. After losing her powers, Wonder Woman became Diana Prince and was trained in martial arts by I Ching. Oh, comics in the 60s. I Ching, what a name. Fortunately, the outcry of comic book fans everywhere saw her transform back to her Amazonian superpowered self as Wonder Woman. Number 6. Thor. Not only have there been changes made to this character since his introduction to the MCU, where let's face it, Hemsworth basically became Thor, but since his introduction to the screen, he has changed quite a bit in appearance. Did you know that Thor appeared on television before he made his way to the big screen? Yeah, we have to go way back to the 80s for his first appearance, but it happened. Thor was first played by Eric Allen Kramer in the 1988 made-for-television movie The Incredible Hulk Returns, with Lou Ferrigno starring as the Incredible Hulk. This Thor resembled the more classic look of the comics, but also he had some very furry shoulder pauldrons instead of his classic cape, which is weird. When Hemsworth took up the mantle, he would look similar to this version of Thor, but swap out the furry pauldrons for the more comic book accurate red cape. And then he would go on to change the look of the character further when he shed those famous golden locks, sporting a shorter haircut in Thor Ragnarok, which oddly enough had a bit of a psychedelic 70s/80s vibe to it. So yeah, which Thor do you like more? Long hair Thor? Short hair Thor? Two eyes Thor? One eye Thor? Bionic eye Thor? All the eyes. I think Thor just needs more eyes, really. He should have like 6 eyes. Number 5. Captain America. That's right, we're talking about the black, red, and white costume, but not the full black one that Steve wore in the MCU, although there's definitely overlap in regards to story and look for sure in regards to these outfits. This actually happened in the 80s, and while you may recognize this look as USA agents, John Walker's, did you know that before Walker got the outfit, Cap donned it? He actually wore it after he was forced to go somewhat off the grid. See, ever since Cap had emerged from that ice block, he'd kind of been a bit of a free agent, till a mysterious government figure appeared wanting to use him for his own means. He even told Cap that he really had no choice, but Steve responded telling him he certainly did have a choice, as America is a free country. Cap rebelled, getting his new outfit and shortening his mantle just to Captain, while the figure went on to find his own Captain America in John Walker. Later the two would swap outfits and Walker would go on to wear it as US agent. Number 4. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. The most unacceptable transformation of them all to me. Not only were these two drastically transformed for the big screen in the MCU, Scarlet Witch herself has gone on to continue to change dramatically actually since her cinematic introduction, even losing her accent and completely changing her costume, but they also underwent a huge change in the comic book world as well. If you're super familiar with my biggest comic book gripes, then you might know what I'm about to mention here. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver had a very mysterious past originally in the comics, until it was later revealed that they were actually the children of Magneto and were mutants. Scarlet Witch herself would change mutant kind forever when she altered reality during the events of House of M. She and Quicksilver had become a big part of the mutant world, but then it turned out that they weren't mutants. In fact, they weren't even Magneto's kids. What? During the Axis event, Scarlet Witch attempted to cast a spell to harm those of her blood, but although it worked on Quicksilver, it did not work on Magneto, revealing that he was not the father. Turned out that they'd actually been disguised as mutants by the High Evolutionary, and all the history, all the drama, all the emotion that we thought we knew just fell away and no longer really mattered. Just threw it out with the trash. Can't believe that. This is one of the most devastating transformations and retcons ever. For me at least. Hopefully it was for you too, and you feel my fury. Number 3. Power Girl. That's right, we're gonna talk about that loss of the window. Gotta let Power Girl have her cleavage. I'm pro that. Just FYI. I'm pro cleavage. Not only has Power Girl had her past retconned multiple times over, like when she was all of the sudden Atlantean, like Aquaman for some reason, but we have also seen drastic and shocking changes come about in regards to her costume. For years, Power Girl was known for her leotard outfit with its little peekaboo window on the front, showcasing Power Girl's insane cleavage. This was a huge part of her look, and while it is very revealing, it was also just very Power Girl. Power Girl isn't the type to care what people think when it comes to what she wears. She is bold and strong, brave, and usually quite confident. She's her own woman. But in 2012, DC decided to redesign her costume and close up that window, because how else could Power Girl be taken seriously, right? You can't have cleavage and be taken seriously, right guys? People revolted, and not just because they wanted to see more skin, but because Power Girl's costume is very much a part of her identity. Also, earlier on in the comics, didn't Power Girl say something like she would never close that window? She was like, I can never close it. And then she closed it. It's like, what? Excuse me? Number 2. Sam Wilson. Remember when writers transformed Falcon into the thug Snap Wilson? No? Well, this was definitely one that shocked readers at the time. Wilson first met Captain America in issue 117 of the original series. Rogers recognized the bravery in Sam and suggested he join him in fighting crime. Sam accepted and became Falcon. The two would become a regular and well-loved team until issue 185, when it was revealed that Sam was actually Sam Snap Wilson, an LA-based thug and gangster. Apparently Red Skull had brainwashed him into becoming the perfect partner for Cap, only so that he could later activate Snap and have him double-cross Captain America, causing pain to Steve over the loss of his partner and the betrayal of his trust. No one really liked this for Sam's storyline, as it retconned a past that was notable and good, which had made him a great African American superhero at the time and role model. Falcon would eventually become good again, but his past as Snap Wilson, unfortunately, seemed to stick around. It had been somewhat selectively forgotten by writers until it was addressed in the all-new Captain America series, where instead Snap Wilson would be established as the fake and brainwashed persona instead of the other way around. So Red Skull brainwashed him to be like Snap Wilson, and the whole time he was Sam Wilson. Which I like better for him, because that transformation was a bad one. And a sad one. Number 1. Superman. Superman hasn't just changed outwardly throughout the years, he has also gone a lot of power changes as well, and emotional changes. We have seen writers paint him in a less favorable light. In the Injustice games and comics, he becomes a superpowered dictator, basically ruling over everyone with an iron fist, for what he considered was the greater good, after snapping following the death of Lois Lane and his unborn child. There is Red Sun Superman as well, who grows up in the Soviet Union and ends up reluctantly teaming up with Brainiac to attack the US. Though, granted, he defects to being good after all that. His powers have gone in the main continuity from being virtually limitless up till the 80s, before being made quite specific. Originally, kryptonite weakened him, but later it was shown that Kal-El's exposure to kryptonite could actually be fatal and kill him. He also gained a weakness to magic and at his power's source, more directly linked to our sun's solar energy. Costume-wise, on screen we've seen him go from George Reeves, who played him in the 50s TV series Adventures of Superman, to Henry Cavill, who played him more recently in the Justice League film from 2017. One big difference is how much more muscular he's become, as well as the fact that his underwear no longer appears to be on the outside of his costume. In the post-Convergence comic book work, his costume was drastically different though, with a depowered Superman just running around on a motorbike in jeans and a t-shirt. So he's Transformation City over there, Superman. But he's also been around for a really long time, so unsurprisingly we gotta change him up every now and then. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you enjoyed this list. What are some of your most favorite and least favorite superhero transformations? Is there something you would like to see changed about your favorite superhero's look, backstory, or power set? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you to stay nerdy, YouTube.